Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. Money Radio, of course, is that program that brings to you the latest developments in Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today we are going to take a critical look at the e-payment system that has taken the hold of the transaction section of the Nigerian economy since the introduction of the cashless policy as was announced by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Naira redesign policy and the Naira swap policy as well are actually brought to the fore some of the serious challenges that the Nigerians are passing through doing e-transaction in the country in the last couple of weeks. And today we have seen that a lot of challenges have been identified in the e-payment system in the country following serious overstretch by some of the banking apps that didn't quite meet the expectations of the customers who actually trooped there en masse as a result of the scarcity of Naira following the Naira redesign policy. And so we are going to look at today the glitches that occurred in this e-transaction system, and of course the pains and the losses Nigerians have incurred in the last couple of weeks. So we are going to start business right away. And I am unfortunately alone in the studio today. My guest who was supposed to join me has some other important engagements, and we wish that I wish him well in whatever he's doing out there. But straight to the point, the streets of Nigeria in most major cities in the country have some gloomy faces littered all over the country. And this is as a result of the fact that there are serious challenges in the transactions that most Nigerians have actually resorted to. That is the e-transaction following the issue of Naira scarcity as a result of the Naira redesign or swap policy introduced some months ago by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And so a lot of Nigerians who actually resorted to this e-payment system are having serious pains and frustration. A lot of the transactions have failed. A lot of them are losing money as a result of that. The overall aim of this policy was to ensure that as much people as possible are captured in the e-payment system, so that the cashless policy can have some seamless movement. Unfortunately, it appears that the glitches are beginning to get even more prominent. Many Nigerians cannot do as simple transfers as a result of what some experts have referred to as overstretch in the system. Now, this system overstretch was comprehensively captured by the leadership newspaper of today. And if you have not read the leadership newspaper of today, let me assure you that you are missing a lot. And I also advise that you pick a copy of leadership newspapers of today to see how comprehensively the issues of this Naira redesign policy and the glitches that it has been causing in the e-payment system has actually made their life really difficult for Nigerian people. You also go to leadership of today, you find out solutions that have been proffered by some analysts and experts in the industry on the way forward. Now, permit me to read a little of what leadership has reported in today's edition of this very important topic. I'm quoting the leadership of today now. The leadership newspaper today has comprehensively reported that the volume of e-payment transactions increased significantly in February 2023, rising by 121% year on year. However, electronic payment glitches have continued unabated, thereby pulling down the value of transactions consummated in the second month of the year. Latest data by the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System show that while the volume of NIBSS Instant Payment, that's NIP, rose by 45.5% last month, the value of transactions consummated via the channel declined by 5.12%. Leadership also reported that during the period of scarcity of new Naira notes, a lot of Nigerians turned to internet banking to carry out their banking transactions, thereby putting more pressure on the internet banking platforms of the banks and creating traffic that overstretched the inadequate online banking infrastructure of deposit money banks in the country. Now, some of the reasons, this is end of quote now. So this is part of what Leadership Newspaper Today reported regarding the issue of the glitches and the pain that is associated with it, and of course the losses that Nigerians have suffered in the last couple of weeks. And I don't think it is very easy now to compile or compute the losses, but I'm sure experts are doing justice to that, and in no time they will produce that record for us. But I'm afraid that it's not going to be a very good story on the part of Nigerians having recorded some of these losses that we're talking about, and we believe that it may just run into billions of naira. And so we are today interrogating the essence of this naira redesign policy, and of course, what should have accompanied it to make it even seamless, which is the e-payment system that was adopted by so many people in order to, as an alternative to the scarcity that of naira that has, in fact, hit most parts of the country. And so, experts are saying that while the policy of naira redesign might be good intention from the government of the day, spearheaded by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the implementation was not properly done in a way, a manner that our experts would have deemed quite correct. This is because some have alluded to the fact that you do not force a child of 1 year, or it's like forcing a child that is just in infancy to start running a marathon or 100 meters dash. That would be a very terrible problem for that child to cope. And so, for instance, the carrying capacity of some of these deposit money banks is said to be around 25%. And of course, that is not a very bad development because they are all growing with time. And the system of e-transaction has also been beneficial for Nigerian banking sector. And many people, as before now, has actually resorted to this type of payment, which has been very, very smooth before this time. But if a platform that has a carrying capacity of about 25% is now imposed upon it a capacity of 85%, that particular platform is definitely going to have a very serious problem. That is just what we are facing at the moment. And this is what the experts call infrastructure overstretch. So the Central Bank of Nigeria may have to do a lot of explanations how they, in fact, impose this particular policy on Nigerians, knowing fully well that most of the deposit money banks and their e-transaction system do not have this type of carrying capacity to be able to make this project seamless. And therefore, we are in a serious stretch right now, because most Nigerians are losing money. Most Nigerians are frustrated. And to make the matter even very, very worse for small businesses, a lot of them, like if you go to the marketplaces where you see small-scale businesses, those of them who would like to call those who sell bananas on the street, for instance, the granite sellers, the mango sellers, and the rest of them, who constitute a very large percentage of the informal sector in the Nigerian economy. A lot of these people do not have access to these e-payment apps. And so they don't, in fact, agree to be paid through even bank transfers. So it's becoming a very huge challenge to all of these kind of businesses, and we have them in large numbers in Nigeria. And so this policy of e-payment system that as a result of the pressure that came to the e-payment system as a result of the Naira redesign policy has never appears not to have benefited Nigerians in this process. And so experts are actually interrogating this fact, whether it has actually benefited us. Now, if a project actually by its like leadership reported had an increase of 121% year on year in February, that is supposed to be a very significant development in the e-payment system. But that is not the end of the story. Because if Nigerians, they are just telling you here that there's a volume, there's an increase, in the number of people who actually visited the platform because of they want to do their transactions. Unfortunately, they also recorded decline in terms of the value that that particular service is supposed to provide for the people. And in any economic variable, we measure economic variable by in a sense of what value it can actually add to the people. And so if there's a decline of 5.12% in value, it then means that particular project has not served the interest of the people well. And why has it not served the interest of the people well? Because it was ab initio, not properly thought out. If, well, maybe properly thought out, but then the impact of the policy on people is not measured by the intentions of government. It is measured by the impact that it has on the people of Nigeria. And right now, the analysis is that this particular policy has brought about difficulties, has brought about pains, has brought about anger, has brought about losses in income, where people's monies are trapped, transactions are not properly done, and all sort of challenges that come with it. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we will continue with the project. Please don't, with the program rather. Please don't go away.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're on to Leadership Podcast, and we're discussing Money Radio. And this edition of Money Radio, we are talking about the difficulties, the pains, and the anguish caused by the issue of e-transactions that many Nigerians have resorted to as a result of the scarcity of Naira. And we are now, there's a profound problem already, because it actually shows that the Central Bank of Nigeria, truth must be told, did not prepare the banks adequately for this all-important project. Why the Central Bank of Nigeria will rush these deposit money banks into this type of project without adequate implementation plan remains to be explained to the Nigerian people by the Central Bank of Nigeria. And so, how does it now benefit the people if what we see going for right now is pains and anguish? So we must ask these critical questions. I have not seen anybody who have come to tell me how much or tell us the impact this policy has had on the positive level now on Nigerians. Because wherever you go, yes, the intention might be right, but Nigerians do not judge policies by intentions. We judge policies by the impact they make on the life of the people. And so if the impact that this policy is making on our life is such pain and anguish that is bringing upon us, then I don't think this problem, irrespective of the intention, has brought anything positive to the Nigerian people. And there are facts and figures to justify some of these things that we're saying here. We have mentioned the decline in the value of the transaction. So there's an upswing in terms of the volume of transaction, but when we measure it by the value, if you discover that it has actually declined. Why is it declining? It is declining because a lot of the banks, yes, they have done very, very great in the past, building their apps, building their data storage system to enable more people have access to this e-transaction system. But the current policy actually caused what they call infrastructure overstretch on them. And I said it here before we went on that break, that an infrastructure that has a carrying capacity of 25%, all of a sudden, overnight, cannot be imposed a carrying capacity of 85%. That is going to be a problem, and this is why we're having this problem. For instance, it's like somebody who owns a small car, and because that car can move, then you want to carry the whole of your village in that car and expect the car to move, I'm afraid you're going to have a problem with that car. Or let's say those of us who live in Abuja, for instance, who have a car that can, take us from Mabushi to Area 1 and the rest of them. Now, without having any serious thought about what you're going to do with that car, you now want to go on a cruise to the Sahara Desert with that same car, and you're going to have a serious problem. And so this is why the CBN, to me, they are getting even more confused in the way they are handling this matter, because they have not come with an explanation on how it has turned out to be. I'm afraid if Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN governor, were to be in another serious country, I'm afraid that this Central Bank of Nigeria governor would have been a serious problem facing the laws of the land, because this is nothing but economic sabotage. He simply has sabotaged the Nigerian people, sabotaged the Nigerian economy, caused serious pains and anguish of the people. And look at it, the facts are there. People go to the streets every day to queue up to get their naira, to queue up to get the money that they have. The CBN governor simply seized people's money illegally. Whatever intention he has in imposing this policy on Nigerians are not happy with this. Go to the streets. I'm not just making up anything in the studio here. Go to the streets and you discover how pains and anguish are on the faces of the Nigerian people because of this failure of this system. This system has completely failed. It has failed because after all the years, after all the months, all the weeks, the promise of the new naira currency. Where are the new naira notes now? We simply have gone back to the same old notes again, courtesy of what this Supreme Court of Nigeria has ruled. The CBN cannot even produce the new naira note for us. We simply have gone back to the old naira notes. So, in essence, what is actually the benefit of this policy of naira redesign? You discover that I do not want to delve into the political angle. Where some people may have been, as what they told us before, they don't want people to use a naira to buy vote and the rest of them. But that is actually, if you ask me, is a linear progression of thinking. In an economic term, people do broad-minded thinking before they carry out economic policy. If you have to politicize a policy of government because you think you're going to target some people, I don't think that is good enough. Yeah, it might be good to stop vote buying, which everybody is against. But any economic policy that is not properly thought out in a broader sense, will simply have this kind of challenge. And that is what we're facing in Nigeria today. The CBN governor simply seized Nigeria's money illegally. And that is what the Supreme Court of Nigeria ruled, that they do not have that power to seize our money illegally. Therefore, they have to release that money whether they like it or not. Unfortunately, they have done a lot of damage to the system. Unfortunately, they have destroyed businesses in the system. I do not have the data to quantify the losses in businesses, but I can assure you that experts in this industry are compiling the losses that Nigerians have incurred in terms of the business, what they have lost in values in time and energy. You can imagine those who are supposed to go to work, actually going to the banks to queue every day. You see them, thousands of people leaving their jobs, thousands of people not being able to do business, thousands of people can't even move at all, because the naira policy, the naira design policy has failed, if you ask me. Nowhere would you now find the new naira notes again. So people who do their small businesses transaction, okay, if you want to enter Molwe from Yaba to Badagry or whatever they call it now in Lagos, or if you're in Abuja, transiting from Nyanya to inside a town like Mabushi, some of them do not have even 15 naira in their pockets. So how do they move? So you can see that the whole thing is a terrible policy that ended up in a terrible situation, and people are suffering terribly about it. So the CBN governor and those of him who are those people who are on his entourage must be brought out to the public domain and ask critical questions as to why he embarked on this policy that has failed Nigerians without any mechanism to cushion the impact of what this policy has been. The policy is very, very unfortunate that this is the kind of the country we would have. And a lot of people, I'm afraid that now that they have started releasing the new naira notes, many people will simply, okay, let's bygone be bygone, we'll move on. Bygone cannot be bygone, because if you quantify the losses in time and energy and resources that we have incurred in the last couple of weeks, I'm afraid it runs into billions of dollars, if you ask me. No country in the world, a serious country in the world that will leave this kind of matter by the wayside. They must interrogate everything and find out who was responsible for this kind of policy in the country. So we must, as a people, be reawakened by this policy. Yes, there are lessons to learn about it. The lessons are that, yes, the banks now, you have to, speed up your system, get more storage, data storage system that can accommodate more people in your banks. I think that's some of the positives. I'm afraid, but some of the positives have been drawn by the negative, results that we're having. So the banks, it's time for them to scale up their system to allow more storage so that more people can participate in the e-transaction system. Unfortunately, it is not the fault of the banks. They are now doing it. They were doing their program, their e-transaction system gradually before this system came upon them. And so I do not think that the banks are to blame for these serious infractions going on in the system. The fault squarely lies on the Central Bank of Nigeria and this type of policy that the Central Bank of Nigerian Governor Godwin Emefiele didn't properly think out well before imposing on Nigerians. Yes, like I said, intentions are good, but the thing is that if your implementation brings hardship on the people, I don't think harsh intention is what people will if we quote, chop. Our people will not chop intentions. Our people will chop. I'm just quoting in the local parlance now. Our people, no intention will go chop. What we want to see is very positive impact of a policy on the Nigerian people that can drive us to businesses, that can drive us to successes and make our potential work in the country. And not a policy that will drag us back, destroy our businesses, cause pains and anguish on the people of Nigeria, especially in this last couple of months. This is not a good time for Nigeria at all. Go to the street, you see anger. Go to the street, you see poverty even written all over people's face, because a lot of people have been rendered poor. Many people have lost their jobs. There's no prospect of people getting new ones. So the CBN governor must be asked to face the Nigerian people and explain to us in details why does he have to impose a policy on Nigerian people, which mechanism he doesn't have to cushion the impact. So these are some of the things that Nigerians must ask the CBN governor going forward. I know there are some takeaways from this project. It means that we have to go back and do a post-mortem, examination of what has really happened, so that we can pick the bits and pieces of how to move a nation forward. Nigeria has never been the only country that did a Naira redesign. No. Some countries like India, some countries, even the UK at a point in their history, actually changed their currencies. But how did they change the currency to appear to that made their own very successful, and Nigeria is becoming a failure? These are some of the questions that we will ask going forward, so that this kind of policy, nobody will come in history of this country to repeat this type of policy against the Nigerian people once again. So we are saying here that the policy of Nigeria, every policy has to be interrogated first. Let us see how viable it is, the dimension it will take on the Nigerian people, and how it will affect businesses. This is how to think about policies. Policies are thought out, yes, in a very intellectuals, but then it was now giving the impetus by making it even more broad-minded, bringing in experts in different fields of the economy who will interrogate all the variables. And with this expert, you can arrive at a situation where policies will be carried out and they will make the desired impact on Nigerians, not this rushed policy, And I believe that if going forward, the lesson is that any policy of government of this nature has to be done in phases. That way, we'll try some phase and see how far it will go before we now take it to the next level. This kind of imposition by the Central Bank of Nigeria, by fiat, is unfortunate, and it has come to destroy businesses, destroy trust. And the Central Bank of Nigerian governor must be asked questions on this, because nobody sabotages his country's economy and will allow it to lie low. I'm afraid he has so many questions to answer, and luckily for us, the experts have dissected the failures in the system and why we have to face these kind of challenges. Like I said, we have spoken so much about the issues of the economy of Nigeria, the e-transaction program, of processes that have brought serious hardship on Nigerian people. We cannot say so much. There's so much about this that can be said, but we do not have all the time today to continue in the program. We wish that next edition we'll also have an opportunity to talk about more of this as some of the issues begin to are beginning to unravel as to why this policy has in fact failed. So it's on that note that we draw the curtains on today's edition of Money Radio on our Leadership Podcast. We always assure you that you can always get the best from Leadership Podcast. And we now promise you that when we come with the next edition, it will be a very bumper one. I remain Innocent Odo, your host, and I also urge you to remain peaceful even in the midst of this increasing hardship in the country. So go there, remain peaceful, and remain blessed. Thank you. Until I see you next time.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.